Welcome back, guys. So this next lesson is is something that I've been wanting to talk about, and it's more of a scare lesson, I guess, than anything, or a what not to do within your account. Just because of the simple fact is, like, when I worked with Google for 5 years, right, and probably 95% of the times that somebody got in the account and screwed something up and added a whole bunch of keywords or added a whole bunch of targeting or something that was completely irrelevant happened because of these next two tools, right? Utilizing the numbers and exactly what Google tells you to is not always in your best interest, right? Some of these formulas and some of the algorithms that they put in place make recommendations that just they're not based off of real small to medium businesses kind of workflow, right? We don't all have unlimited money, and we can't all afford to dump 30-40% of our overall sales into marketing. And so these next couple lessons that I'm going to talk about within here are all about the recommendation tab and then just the data that you're seeing within the tools. Okay, so before I jump into the recommendations tab, right, this is something you're going to experience probably right off the bat, right? Whenever you are, let's say we're looking at locksmiths services, locked out. And let's do those two, okay? Key results. Do locksmith near me. Get that result as well. I like that one. Throw me over here. So I'm just going to forewarn you, right? Some of this data is not realistic, okay? So I've managed a couple locksmith companies currently, and we do, pay-per-call, and we do lead gen with them. And this particular industry, like, if you see within the tools, right? And the point of this is making sure that you're constantly looking at your data and you're setting yourself up for success, right? Because what happens if you're building out locksmith campaigns and you're looking just to target the customer, right? If you look at the overall bids here, right, they're telling you the recommended is 1442 for locksmith near me, 1374, 5,000 volume, 300,000 volume. All right, we've got top of page bid is 470. It's 1550 over here. Now let's do locksmith. Locksmith Chandler. Okay. Chandler's a suburb of Phoenix here. And then we have Phoenix. Okay, you see how, like, you have locksmith Phoenix and locksmith Chandler, like, they're still at 1330 and 1535. They went a little bit up to 1790 and 1780. So what you see over to the right, or to the far right, is top of page bid low range, top of page bid high range, right? You need to look at your overall statistics as soon as you launch your campaigns, okay? A lot of, even like if you call Google up and they build you out a campaign, right? What they're going to do is they're going to build it out and they're going to turn it on and let it run for pretty much a week or 2 weeks before they do an optimization, right? Because their philosophy is that you need to, you need data in order for you to make dynamic changes and educated changes for the better, right? But there's certain changes that you have to make immediately, because they're just not going to, regardless if you rate a week or 2 weeks, data is not going to change the fact that a $15 cost per click on Locksmith is probably going to get you on the second or third page, right? Locksmiths, their cost per click is literally 30, 40, sometimes 50 or $60, right? They're extremely expensive cost per click, right? Let's look at one other one is class action attorney. Class action attorney, right? Get results. Even this one's $7. We'll do another one, personal injury. see what lawyer is, right? Lawyers. There you go. This is a little bit better. This is actually where it's getting into what it is. Personal injury lawyer, right? There we go. Attorneys, it's a little bit higher, right? $138. So these are the things, like the data is a little bit more accurate for attorney, but locksmith are about the exact same, right? They're a high fraud industry, a high, return industry, and they just bid a shit ton of money for the cost per clicks, right? So these are the things that, for personal injury, like we're going to set it at 130. Hopefully we show up on the page. But if you launch your campaigns and you're utilizing some of this data from the tools that I've talked about, in the previous lessons, then you need to really make sure that these things they're showing up. So when you launch these campaigns, don't always take the tools data verbatim, right? Look in there after you launch and make sure you're checking your average position or your top of page impression share rate is what going to be what they're moving to, right? And make sure you're getting at that good top of page impression, because the reality of it is with these bids, I just know from my experience, is like you're probably going to be on the second or third page. So it's very, very important to look in the data and make sure that you're making dynamic changes based off of what the data is telling you, not necessarily what Google tools are telling you, right? And that's going to lead us right into the recommendations tab, which is right here. And I've got a couple different recommendations tab pulled up here so we can kind of see the difference, right? Your optimization score on this one is a 90.3. On this one, it's a 94, right? So it's a little bit higher. But you look at some of these recommendations, and the problem that people usually came in here and did is like, they're like, oh, bid more efficiently with enhanced CPC. Well, hell yeah, I want to do that. Well, they don't know the ramifications, right? Because if they're on manual bidding, just a regular, manual bidding strategy, then all of a sudden you've given Google permission to take your bids, 30% higher in any particular auction to get you a conversion, right? So all of a sudden you have a different variable within your equation. And let's say you were only prepared to bid $7 and now you're bidding 10, right? These are the type of changes that I'm always going to make sure that I'm looking at and going to fully, understand, right? Like I'm going to look in here and read all about this, right? Automatically optimize your bids at auction times for search more likely to lead to conversions. And I'm going to dive into this a little bit more. I'm even going to go to Google, like, okay, cool. What is enhanced CPC bidding? Like, what is the true ramifications of it? Because depending on what it is, like they say 30%, but it can go 40, 50%, depending on what it is, right? And is that 7% really worthwhile for me? The potential quality score, like, is it going to increase that? Right? This is just an optimization score. The fact that I'm bidding more, yeah, it's going to improve the quality score because your ad rank, right, is times your bid. So it's going to improve that. But you need to make sure that you understand the ramifications in your overall strategy and realize that you're going to potentially get less clicks than you accounted for. So hopefully the conversion rate offsets the lack of volume or the lesser volume that you're going to be getting. And that's something you need to kind of start making sure that you're analyzing once you make this recommendation, right? This may be a solid recommendation. I'm not going to say it is or it isn't, right? For me, I like to have the control. So enhanced bidding, I kind of take some of that control out of me, maybe just an ego or whatever. But at the end of the day, like it's going to make changes that I'm not specifically involved in, right? It may bid higher on one term, it may bid lower on one term, and that may, that term that it bid lower on may have been the one that actually converted, right? So it's going to give Google more latitude within moving your bids up and down, is what enhanced bidding does. So I kind of stay away from it. But if you do the research on it and you think that, you're in a market where you've got a little bit more room, right? You set your bids at more of like a best case scenario where the stretch bidding of what, may actually happen, you have a little bit more room to move there, then enhanced bidding is definitely a viable option for you to increase your conversion rate. I usually will just make sure that I have conversions and just flip it to CPA bidding. So that's why my strategy a lot of times is I'll do manual bidding until I get the conversions, and then I'll just flip it to CPA bidding. Enhanced CPC bidding is just basically CPA bidding without the conversion data behind it, right? But that conversion data speaks volumes in how that customer or customers have interacted with your site or other products that are similar to yours. So I'm gonna really wait until that data comes in before I start letting Google really move my bids up or down according to any particular auction's value in there. All right. So it's telling you where you should actually apply it down through here as well. Like you can just dismiss it, right? Apply all, dismiss all, or download for more information, right? You can do the apply and it'll just apply to this, and you can look at view recommendations there as well, and it'll tell you more recommendations that you have, right? View and add extensions, right? So if we go back up here, we'll go to recommendations, all recommendations, right? The other ones that it had for us was this: get your ads running by adding ads to each ad group, right? I've got some ad groups that don't have ads. Right? These were just test ad groups that I threw in here to kind of build, but it's going to say if I go in there and I add ads to these, that it'll improve my ranking by 2.5%. I'm like, okay, cool, right? Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go add ads, but we'll dismiss that. If you dismiss it, it asks why. Don't have time right now. Let's do that. But let's go back to this, and we'll see this, right? I'm at 92.8% score, right? This is the bids and budget. So, hey, we're going to go to EPC bidding. Sure, this is a new account. I've got a little room. I really want to make sure it starts off on the best case scenario and gets a really high CTR. So, this particular campaign, because of the variables that I have on the other side in creating it, right? I've got really unlimited budget, at least, $2,000 or $3,000 in this first mindset to get it to conversion tracking, or to get it conversions so that I can get it to CPA bidding. Enhanced bidding is going to do that. And the reality of it is, within this particular section, right, the bids really vary. Like, I can get really good clicks for $5. Some I have to bid 18. So, I may need to have a little bit more help in trying to figure out what the best, baseline is for my particular bid. So let's go ahead and we'll hit apply. Apply it, right? Takes my optimization score to 100. Yay, let's do that. Now, this one is completely different, right? All recommendations. This is just talking about repairs. It's telling me to put ads in there, right? I just need to put those ads in there because this hasn't ran or even been turned on yet or even been approved, right? It's just doing a real quick glance over the entire account. Okay, what's going to keep this from running? What's going to keep it from, actually being shown to customers? Well, the ads, right? That's going to be it. So there's a lot more additional information that they'll put in here. All right, let's go to one of these. I haven't ran this in a little while. So it hasn't been ran, so it doesn't have any data to actually interpret according to that, right? And it's going to be, you're going to have all sorts of different ones, such as keyword ideas that are meant to roll in there and so on. Let me see if I can find, so if we go to this campaign, this we've been running for, a little while, the auto warranty, but it didn't really have any recommendations. So sometimes the recommendations that you'll get in there are like, you need to add these keywords, add this ad group, break this stuff out. Again, I just caution you to basically look further down into it. Make sure that the keywords that it's telling you to add are relevant. They're not really, really broad terms to that effect, because you can really, the recommendations, again, they're not always done with all the key components in mind. And Google, realistically, they interpret that you have an endless amount of money, right? So that's why these tools are very, very, I caution most people from using the recommendations. Try and do adjustments and optimizations to the account that is relevant to the data that is being represented to you, right? At the end of the day, like, the data will tell you more than any algorithm or anything will ever be able to tell you within the account. If you look at, a particular keyword and it's showing up at the top of the page for $3, but the tool tells you it should be $7, it's showing up at the top of the page for $3. That's what it is, right? But additionally, if you're showing up on the second page or the fourth position, something like that, then go in there and make the adjustment, right? These recommendations tabs, it throws you into a lot of times to try and give you valuable points that'll increase the optimization score on the account, but that optimization score isn't always in your best scenario for actually converting, right? It may just be about delivering more traffic, getting more exposure on new keywords, ad groups, breaking stuff down. And again, depending on what your overall strategy is within the account, it may not be in your best benefit. So before you dive in and just apply all, make sure that you're really analyzing the recommendations that are being made within the account and making sure that they're following along your strategy to ultimately increase your conversion rate, lower your cost, and put more money back in your pocket so we can throw your conversions through the roof, right? We keep you coming back and keeping reinvesting in the platform so that you can grow as performance increases rather than just basically throwing a bunch of money into stuff that Google is kind of thinking is recommended. It's really applying that rifle versus shotgun method and utilizing, the data to make sure that you're hyper focused within your message and you're getting the greatest quality scores. You're driving down that cost, and those conversions are always rising as you're making these optimizations. So we're going to jump on into the accelerated portion here. We're going to really start kickstarting display and YouTube and scaling those conversions and lowering down those costs. So if you haven't upgraded yet, make sure you upgrade, and we're going to go ahead and jump into those so we can start, really increasing your scale and your skill sets outside of just Google search. We'll talk to you then.